Without further delay, I give the floor to Giovanni de Siervo, who will present his case studies from PROCULTHER EU-funded project. Please.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure for me to be with you to share what we are doing currently in our PROCULTHER project. This is a project which is coordinated by the Italian Civil Protection Department in a consortium with the civil protection authorities of France, Turkey, and the Ministry of Culture of the regional government of Castilla and Leon from Spain. And then we have ICROM and the Fondazione Villa Montesca. This project is funded by the European Commission in the framework of what is called the EU Civil Protection Mechanism. What is this mechanism? This mechanism is a mechanism that was created in the framework of the disaster management proper. It means it was a way to coordinate the national civil protection authorities of the member state of the European Union. And so it started from the more traditional civil protection intervention or disaster management intervention, such as search and rescue after an earthquake, for example, or flood response after a flooding. This mechanism was extremely successful. It's already 20 years old, and if you consider that in 20 years it was activated over 300 times, and it's starting from very traditional civil protection operations, disaster management operation. It was moved and intervened more and more also in areas that are connected to disaster management, but they are not traditional. One of the recent feature of this mechanism is the fact that it started to be utilized also in the framework of cultural heritage protection, building on the experiences of its own partners, so the member states of the European Union plus the other countries that are part of this mechanism. It was seen that more and more often there is a need of support the activities of an affected country after a disaster, also in the field of cultural heritage protection. For this reason, we proposed, our consortium proposed a project to try to identify a common language among all the countries involved, but not only, also inside the different countries, among the disaster management community and the cultural heritage community. Because what appears clearly is that not always the language is the same, not always the priorities are the same. And that's why we started by identifying what are the lessons learned in the past, in recent years in the different countries, to try to draw good practices that can become a minimum standard of collaboration, both among the among the communities and among countries. The idea is to identify this methodology, and each country partner of this consortium has done this work at the national level, involving all stakeholders that are involved in cultural heritage protection, and each country has its own structure, and that's what we found out, and its own way of working. And based on this common methodology, we also have identified the possibility of developing intervention teams, let's say a common standard for an intervention team that could intervene everywhere in the world under the framework of the Union Civil Protection Mechanism, having together disaster management experts, and cultural heritage protection expert trained and working according to the same methodology. And as it was said by one of the previous speaker, the Sendai Framework for Action has recently defined the fact that we have to move from a disaster management way of thinking to a disaster risk management way of thinking. And that's the same thing we would like to do. Starting from the response and preparedness to response, we would like little by little, building on the good practices developed in the different countries to identify methodologies that can be applied also in the phase of prevention and recovery, always having in mind increasing the resilience of cultural heritage in case of disaster. Thank you.
Thank you.